Most women want to feel high value, but many try to prove it instead of embodying it. They chase reassurance, attention, and clarity, not realizing the more they chase, the more attraction quietly fades. The truth is simple. A woman who constantly asks for effort rarely receives it consistently. But a woman who radiates emotional stability often inspires effort naturally. Men respond less to pressure and more to energy, and energy is felt long before it is explained. By the end of this video, you will understand 6 behaviors that instantly change how men perceive and treat you. These are not manipulation tactics or mind games. They are psychological signals that communicate self-respect, emotional strength, and value before attraction even deepens. When you stop trying to convince a man to value you, the dynamic changes completely. He starts feeling the need to prove himself to you. The first behavior is self-control. Not controlling him, controlling yourself. When a man becomes distant, inconsistent, sarcastic, or emotionally unpredictable, most women react immediately. They overthink, question, chase reassurance, or try to repair the tension instantly. But many men are unconsciously observing how you respond under emotional pressure. Some people grew up surrounded by instability. They became used to inconsistency, emotional chaos, and unpredictable affection. Without realizing it, they recreate those patterns in adulthood because chaos feels familiar to them. So when he pulls back slightly or changes his energy, he may unconsciously be testing one thing. Are you emotionally stable or easily shaken? When you panic, overtext, demand answers, or emotionally escalate, it signals insecurity. But when you remain calm, grounded, and emotionally centered, something shifts psychologically. He feels steadiness. He feels emotional safety. And emotional stability creates respect. Calm confidence is rare today. Most people react impulsively to discomfort. But when you remain composed under pressure, curiosity increases naturally. Instead of feeling the need to retreat, he starts leaning closer emotionally because your energy feels safe rather than chaotic. The second behavior is boundaries. A woman without boundaries becomes predictable. A woman with boundaries becomes magnetic. If he cancels plans repeatedly and you always rearrange your schedule instantly, he learns your time has little structure. If he disappears for days and returns without explanation, while receiving full access to your attention again, he learns consistency is optional. Boundaries are not punishments or emotional games. They are signals of self-respect. They communicate that your time, energy, and emotional investment matter. The important part is how boundaries are enforced. High-value energy is calm, not dramatic. You do not need emotional speeches, anger, or lectures. Quietly pulling back your availability communicates far more powerfully than emotional confrontation ever will. When access to you is no longer automatic, your presence feels valuable. Scarcity naturally creates effort because people value what feels intentional rather than endlessly available. The third behavior is presence. When you walk into a room, people notice more than appearance. They notice energy, posture, eye contact, pace, tone, composure. A woman who speaks clearly, moves calmly, and appears comfortable in her own skin commands attention effortlessly. Presence is not about being loud or constantly performing. It is about emotional control. The way you pause before speaking matters. The way you hold eye contact matters. The way you remain relaxed during silence matters. Most people rush to fill silence because silence makes them uncomfortable. But confidence often looks slow, calm, and intentional. Women who constantly over-explain, seek validation, or fidget nervously fade into the background emotionally. But a woman who appears grounded and secure naturally becomes memorable because emotional certainty is attractive. You do not need to prove your intelligence, humor, or value constantly. People feel self-worth through energy, more than words. When you already carry yourself like you know your worth, others start believing it too. The fourth behavior is selectivity. Most people give emotional energy away too quickly. They validate immediately, invest too early, compliment excessively, and become emotionally available before someone has earned that access. But selectivity creates attraction because it signals discernment. When a man realizes you are not automatically impressed by charm, compliments, or attention, he becomes more invested psychologically. Suddenly, he feels observed instead of automatically accepted. And that changes the energy completely. Scarcity creates value. When your approval feels earned rather than guaranteed, attention becomes meaningful. He listens more carefully. He invests more effort. He becomes more intentional because people naturally value what requires effort to obtain. This does not mean acting cold or pretending to be uninterested. It means being emotionally intentional. Not everyone deserves instant emotional access to you. When your attention is selective, your presence becomes powerful. Before we go further, like this video and complete my 2,000 subscriber goal to get more videos like this. So, the fifth behavior is purpose. One of the fastest ways to lose attraction is making another person the center of your entire emotional world. When your happiness revolves completely around him, the balance shifts. But a woman with purpose feels magnetic because her identity extends beyond relationships. She has goals, structure, growth, passions, and momentum in her own life. Purpose creates emotional stability because your sense of self no longer depends entirely on another person's behavior. You stop obsessing over every text, mood shift, or interaction because your life already feels full and meaningful. When a man sees that you are deeply invested in your own growth and direction, he views you differently. You stop appearing emotionally dependent and start appearing emotionally grounded. Purpose also creates intrigue. People are naturally drawn toward those who have direction and ambition because it communicates internal strength. You become someone adding value to life rather than someone waiting to receive validation from it. And emotionally grounded people are far more attractive because they create calm instead of pressure. The sixth and final behavior is composure. This is where true emotional power exists. Anyone can appear confident when everything feels easy. But composure reveals itself during stress, disappointment, tension, or disrespect. When emotions rise, most people react impulsively. They defend themselves immediately, over-explain, argue emotionally, or seek instant reassurance. But emotional discipline creates influence. A composed woman slows down instead of reacting instantly. She observes before responding. She stays calm instead of emotionally escalating. And that emotional control commands respect naturally. Silence can be powerful. Stillness can be powerful. Timing can be powerful. You do not always need immediate reactions or emotional explanations. Sometimes emotional restraint communicates confidence more effectively than words ever could. Composure signals emotional security because secure people do not feel the need to constantly fight for validation, attention, or control. They trust themselves enough to remain steady under pressure. And when someone consistently demonstrates emotional discipline, attraction often evolves into something deeper. Respect. Respect is what sustains attraction long-term. Without respect, attraction fades quickly. But emotional stability, boundaries, presence, selectivity, purpose, and composure all contribute to creating that respect naturally. The important thing to understand is this. High value is not something you perform, it is something you embody. You do not become valuable by chasing attention harder, explaining yourself more, or forcing someone to recognize your worth. True value is communicated quietly through standards, emotional control, and self-respect. And once you truly embody those qualities, the dynamic changes completely. You stop wondering whether he likes you enough. He starts wondering whether he is enough for you. That is the shift most people never fully understand. Attraction deepens when someone feels they must rise to meet your standards, rather than when they feel endlessly chased or emotionally managed. The woman who embodies value does not need to demand respect constantly, because her energy already communicates it. She does not beg for consistency, because inconsistent people naturally remove themselves from her life. She does not fear silence, because her self-worth is not dependent on constant reassurance. And that kind of emotional groundedness is rare. People are drawn towards certainty, because most people secretly live in emotional chaos. So when someone feels calm, secure, and emotionally disciplined, their presence becomes unforgettable. Protect your peace. Protect your standards. Protect your emotional energy. Because the moment you stop chasing value and start embodying it, everything changes. Here is what ties all 6 behaviors together. Each one is not about controlling another person or manipulating attraction. Each one is about coming back to yourself, returning to your own emotional center, building a relationship with your own sense of worth that does not require external validation to feel stable. Self-control means trusting yourself enough to stay grounded when someone else becomes uncertain. Boundaries mean valuing yourself enough to protect your time and emotional energy without guilt. Presence means believing in yourself enough to take up space without apology. Selectivity means respecting yourself enough to understand that not everyone deserves instant emotional access to who you are. Purpose means investing in yourself enough to build a life that feels meaningful, independent of any relationship. And composure means trusting yourself enough to remain steady when everything around you feels uncertain. When all 6 of these exist together, something quietly powerful emerges. A version of you that no longer needs to chase, convince, or manage another person's perception of your value. Because your value is already present in how you carry yourself, in how you respond to discomfort, in how you protect your peace, in how you invest your emotional energy, in how you move through the world without waiting for someone else to confirm that you belong there. That version of you does not need reassurance because she already knows. She does not need to over-explain because her standards speak for themselves. She does not need to chase because the right people naturally stay close to her energy. And the men who recognize that energy do not take it for granted. They feel the difference immediately between a woman who needs their validation to feel worthy and the right people rise to meet the standard you have already set for yourself.